don't forget, if that's okay with everybody. It's okay? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, fantástico. Um, Good. Well, we are so excited. It's been quite a while since our last Pachaysana workshop, but it's really fascinating for me to see how the different workshops that you guys have presented have continued to work on us. No, so there are moments where we refer back to the workshops or experiences that we had that it has taken us several weeks to process some of
Mm,
those experiences and kind of reconcile some of the lessons that we've learned. Some of us have attempted to implement methodologies that you've exposed us to in our classrooms with better and worse results. Like, you know, sometimes we're just not as eloquent as Chell and Daniel in terms of the fluidity of presenting, but we've kind of tried to bring that in not just into our classrooms but also into our conferences, you know, more broadly. So thank you so much, because it has been kind of like an enduring presence in a lot of the things that we do.
mm. Well, thank you all. Thank you so much. And I would say that it probably has nothing to do with Chell and me being eloquent, but has a lot to do with us doing a lot of experimentation and practice, and still, entering every space with that opportunity to learn and grow and process, not just how things went and what we can do better, but more, how does that fulfill who we are, our mission? How do we continue to integrate this work into that ever developing story that we are as individuals, but also as an organization? So it's also been very fruitful for us to have this space. And Chelsea and I were talking this morning about, yeah, it's also a strange feeling to be kind of closing out the space. We hope that it's not closing out, but that it's it's a recognition of our time together. Most of the folks on this call, but not everybody that have been with us over the course of 2 semesters, and kind of imagining where this is going to go. So we're very thankful for this opportunity, and it's always something that we look forward to.
It's hard for us to imagine moving forward without y'all. So I think that there will be more opportunities to sort of engage, and also just thinking about like the sequence of things that have happened on our campus, either as prompted by these workshops or independently, but where they start coming together as a whole. So last week, Pamela Espinosa de los Monteros and Leonardo Carrizo invited an Andean artist to present on the masks exhibit. So we did Dancing with Devils, Latin American mask traditions. So
Mm-hmm.
we're coming fresh off of that, and then right immediately after this workshop at 2:20, so that's why maybe we can end it a little bit
Mm-hmm.
early, right at 2:20, we have the Global Comics series that is focused on Tales of the Orishas. So again, the storytelling and bringing different ways of looking at those stories of the Orishas, the voices of the Orishas. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that it makes for a really nice sequence and package. So I will let me go ahead and turn it over to you for the workshop, since we have this precious time and we've been looking forward to it for weeks.
Well, great. So thanks again. We're gonna start off with a bit of a presentation, and also one of the ideas is that you have something that can serve as a mask during this time. Better if it could be something that covers your eyes. So if you have if you didn't bring a mask today, but you have one of your standard mascarillas lying around that you use, and it's something that you can play with, you know feel free to, like, as we're going through the next 10 minutes, basically play with your mask. You cut a couple of holes for eyes or something if you have that ability, um, to be able to play just a little bit more in this space. So starting with that, I'm going to share my screen and let Chelsea take it away.
Sweet. So yeah, The idea of playing with masks today is to also think about like how can masks and how can this like tool of using masks help us in also like our storytelling, but then also our like efforts for liberation, decolonizing our minds, epistemic justice, and all of these things that we've talked about. So could we go to the next slide, Daniel? To start us off, yeah, we would love to also hear your thoughts. So if you could write in the chat box when like you think about masks, what comes up for you? What is a mask for you? A medium, alternate identity. Hiding space, concealing allows you to channel spirits. Mm. Playful, anonymous, an opportunity to speak. Protection, safeguard. Mm. Whoa, thank you, Al. Yeah, and like such deep thinking in all of these responses. I think it's really powerful how some of these respond to like, for instance, an artistic realm, but then also in like our day-to-day lives, right? So thank you. Can we go to the next one? And I'll read this last one from Kurt. Helps unite through giving up ego. Whew. So yeah, we're gonna the way that, because we could talk about a ton of things regarding masks, the history of masks in theater in the Andes, there's all of these things, but that's not what we're really gonna focus on today. We're really gonna play with masks, as some of you mentioned, sort of as this vessel, this vehicle to explore and invoke different spaces, different ways that we can engage with the space and with the reality that we inhabit. So yeah, now I'll pass it over to Daniel.
Thank you, Chell. So we're going to go back to our very, very first webinar that we did last semester. So we're thinking back toward the end of August. I don't remember the date. But we actually discussed our work with relationship to space. And so here you see an image of people relating to space in an intercultural setting, very much connected to the idea of agriculture, of working a place. But I also want us to think back to this image and think how this image symbolically, which is a version of the Chicana Ecuadorian style, or at least Andean style from more of an Ecuadorian context. And look at it not just as a two-dimensional space, but also a three-dimensional space, and how it's basically going inward, or you could say it's launching outward. And so there is different ways that we could relate to space by looking at this image. And we're going to ask you all to start to not so much think about, but try to just feel out how masks might help us connect with that inner space and that outer space, and also the interconnections thereof. And of course, this is very symbolic, this particular image, just as masks are clearly symbolic. So if you remember, for those who either were with us or watched the recording, we talked about 4 depictions of space. And this comes out of work that Chelsea and I have been doing, all of Pachaysana, but Chelsea and I with different community partners in Ecuador, and exploring what it really means to know, and how do we collectively know together. And so we challenged very much the concept of third space, and looked at ways of naming third spaces. And we really believe that masks are a way to engage individually and collectively with this third space. So The idea that here on this call, we are engaging a third space in some way. You all are in your space, your realities, I'm in mine, my realities, but we've come together in some sort of created space. Some might say fabricated, but it's this idea that we've joined together here and a now, and a some place, a some space that is important for us to be able to have this exchange and create together. So when we talk about rehearsal space, we talk very much about this dialogue for change. And then a mask helps us have that dialogue. It helps us multiply the dialogue that I might have with you. So if you see this, and then I pull it to the side, I can speak from different perspectives. But then it would kind of feel awkward to do that as me without the mask. So it's the idea of how can I rehearse more with this element of the mask? Because if I go something like this, you're going to see it one way. But if I do the same thing, it might be fun, but it has a completely different dialogical context. And so it also helps us when I do that, and I can feel a little more accurately or more intensely. And so now I feel as if all of a sudden, what is this knowing from the head, this covers that up and allows it also to drop a little more into the body, right? And so that idea of rehearsal space for a lot of this idea of knowing our world and seeking change, we're looking for ways to drop out of here and engage all of this. So as you're playing a little later on with a mask, think about that idea of rehearsal, having a dialogue with self, but also the dialogue with others, because once again, this can go like this, but that dialogue can pull out, and then we can engage a little further with that. So rehearsal space is one way that we're going to ask you to think about your playing with masks today. The other idea is this thinking feeling space. So I was already talking a little bit about thinking feeling space, but we spend a lot of time on epistemology, but that thinking feeling space, we would argue, is really the doorway to an ontological exchange, because it can help us move from that dialogue of knowing into being, right? So we start playing, and all of a sudden, without really thinking about it, we're starting to explore a little bit more of our own story being. And it's because we make ourselves a little more vulnerable to something that we perhaps can't explain. Might even argue that it's, and Chelsea in our work argue about a peaceful vulnerability. And this mask, by just putting it on, gives me just a slight sense of peace. Because I can do stuff behind this mask, or I can feel certain ways, but you can't see my eyes. You don't have that doorway into me. And so here, I can really feel in a certain way. And by making myself like viscerally more connected to my body once again, it's almost meditative. Whereas if I were to do that with my face, once again, it's more of that, I feel very exposed. We had talked about vulnerability as being open versus being exposed at the very beginning of our workshops last semester. So this helps us hopefully open up into thinking, feeling, as opposed to exposing our feelings. Then it's this idea of an in-between space, which hopefully is just obvious with a mask. But here, it's a little hard to sense that in-between space. But if I simply turn myself right here, and I go like that, all of a sudden there's so much magic that happens by just taking the mask and putting it on. So it's this idea that in-between space, there's an in-between me and the mask, yet it's both me. They're both elements of who I am, right? Also, if I go for that dialogue aspect, there's another in-between space that happens, right? Of course, it also embraces some of that peaceful vulnerability that we might have in embracing the in-between space between you all and me, right? And it helps me also when I'm back here, I can feel myself as a performer, but I also can, you don't know, like right now I'm really observing you all, right? And so at that moment, I'm very much an observant and an actor. That I'm that spectator, as we've talked about. And finally, what we have is this idea of, Chell and I talk about it working in a ceremonial playground space. And this hopefully also becomes very obvious within a mask because it's playful. You've already seen me playing, you know, once again, I feel much more free to play in this mask. But there's also that idea of ceremony, right? This should be playful, but it should also have that moment of the mask coming onto my face as an act of ceremony too. So it's that, once again, engaging with that action, that this is sacred, but it's also playful. And for some reason in the Western world, we see those as opposing, you know, oh, you can't be playful and ceremonial. No, ceremony is serious business, right? But the mask is really a beautiful way to help us link those two together. So that's what we wanted to share in terms of the presentational component. Obviously, we're not talking about history of masks or going into technical issues of masks, because that would be a whole nother exploration into theater. And you already had a beautiful workshop on or presentation on masks. So I'm going to leave just a brief moment here to see if anybody has questions or would just like to make a comment about what we've discussed before we move on. Cool. So then let's play, shall we, Joe? I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen if I can figure out how to do that. There it is. Wait, no. There we go.
Okay, lovely. So I'm curious, who has a mask? Could you? Okay. So for folks who also don't have a mask, maybe like the way that you can play is like using your hands. So for example, this could also be your mask, or this could be your mask, or that could be your mask, or that could be your mask. Like maybe you can play with like, but try and like find a gesture, right, that you can hold, because what we're gonna do right now is sort of like try and hold our masked selves for a while, because we could talk a lot about masks, right? But the idea is actually like embodying it. So maybe right now I'm gonna ask you, if you right now don't have a mask, maybe like start exploring what sort of mask you want to use. If you do have a mask, I'm gonna ask you to bring it. And first off, we're gonna start with, yeah, maybe observing your mask, like just starting to appreciate what is here. Look at the different colors or the shape that it has, the expression that it carries. Just by like recognizing this element, this object as this vessel that's gonna help us to in our explorations today. We're gonna inhale together and we exhale. And we're gonna, yeah, ask permission from this mask, from this object, to embody it, to give it a body. And we're gonna thank it for its existence and for the journey that we'll go on today. So whenever you're ready, I'm gonna ask you all to put on your mask, and do so embracing also this in between, this moment when the mask is approaching your face. Feel what it feels to then put on your mask. And with our masks on, I'm gonna ask you all to leave your seats if you can. And stand up. and take a look at yourself, then also take a curious look through these eyes of the others. What do these other beings in this space with us look like? And how do you perceive them from your masked self? We're going to take a step back. And we're going to start walking across the space, not as ourselves, but as our masked selves. So how does this being move around the space? Does it lead with its chest, or with its forehead, or with its stomach? How does this masked self move across the space? As you walk, as you find your rhythm, you're going to start observing the things around you with a new perspective, with the perspective of this being. What does this being think about the books that are around you? Or about the colors of the wall? Maybe the plants? What sparks this being's curiosity? And now we're going to think about this being's voice. How does this mask speak? Maybe the voice is a little bit higher. What does that do to the mask? Or is actually the voice of this mask a lot lower than your own? But how does this mask speak through your body? I invite you to play, say some words. How do they come out of you? And what is it that the mask wants to say today? What is it thinking? What is it feeling as it's embodying you? I'm going to ask you to find a place of stillness, maybe face the screen once again. And now I'm going to pass it over to Danielita.
And now what we're going to do is we're going to play a little bit with Zoom space now. A little later on, you all are going to create in groups a bit of a theater piece with your masks. Okay, so the idea is to do just a little bit of play. So think about, for example, just kind of playing with me, go off screen, and then just walk through the screen, but look over at the screen and walk out. And then come back in because you saw something. Get closer, close up, close up, close up. Really explore, really explore. Pull back. And now, playing with Zoom space, let's enter as if you can, enter from below. So you're gonna kind of sink down. And then watch yourself slowly come up into it. Almost like you're sneaking in. Look around as you come in. Is it safe? Come in a little more, a little more, a little more. Here's something to your right. Nope, now it's from the left. Back to the center. Yep. And I want you to feel as if something's dropping on you from above, like it's raindrops or something, and feel and sense it. And see if you can play a little bit with that. And it feels so nice. Embrace that. And now the rain goes away. And we're going to play just for a second by removing our mask letting the mask stay in the screen, but our bodies move out. And now we're going to come back. We're going to put ourselves into the mask and then explore to the other side, leaving our mask in the screen. Separate again and to the other side, leaving the mask there. Have your mask call you. Turn the mask. It might call, inviting you in to the mask. And you come in, put yourself face to face with the mask, and then once again, invite it onto your face. Separate the mask again. Put yourself to the side of the mask. And now this time, turn the mask, you turn to it, and feel as if the mask is inviting you and you're not inviting the mask. And see if you can go into your mask again. And now really embrace that feeling, connected with it. See if you can dance a little, play a little. And then notice something that you see every day, something wherever you are right now, something that you see every day, but see it for the first time. See that. Go to it and explore it for the first time. But it's something you have every day. And then realize that there's an outer world. If you have a window, go to that window and look through it with your mask. If you don't, look out towards an outer space from wherever you are and see outside through this mask. Finally, come back and see if we can just play briefly with kind of going through some ages. So feel as if this mask has the ability to go through time. So feel the playfulness, the youthfulness, the childlikeness that maybe this mask can bring out. Allow yourself to grow into your current time little by little and see how you feel with this mask at your current age. And how does this mask then grow? How do we grow into an older age? See if this mask allows us to feel our bodies differently than we do without the mask. Come back to your screen and just stand and observe yourself and everyone else that is here with us. And just take a moment to celebrate all of us with our masks. Celebrate the joyful and curious moment of being able to embrace ourselves, others, and otherness at this moment. And when you're ready, without taking your mask off, come back to your chair. And we're going to do a bit of processing through writing. So if you have the ability to leave your mask on to do this exercise, great. If you can, the other thing is to, if for some reason it's difficult, you can lift up your mask like I'm doing right now so that you still feel the presence of it as you're writing. And I'll turn it over to
Wonderful. So what we're gonna do now is a free writing exercise, but this exercise is for the mask. So you're gonna be writing from the perspective of this mask. And we're gonna be exploring, I guess, the conflicts that we find in education. So feel free to take that where that feels good, whether that's the education in high school or the issues that arise in university, or feel free to take it wherever you want to take it. So I'm going to ask you all to have a piece of paper and a pen handy. And you're going to start writing, who are you? So who is this mask in relationship to education? Are you a student? Are you the president of the university? Are you a professor? Are you staff? Are you someone that lives in a community where there's a big university? Who are you? So I'm going to give you around 3 minutes. I'll actually say 2 minutes to explore this initial question of who are you? Who is this character? Also, it's okay if your character doesn't embody something tangible that we might find in university. It could be a spirit. It could be the spirit of the Amazon, and what do they have to say to education? So feel free to go where the mask is asking you. There's no limit. And now I'm going to ask you all to start transitioning from this who you are to how do you feel in this world that is surrounding you? What do you have to say about this world that you're seeing? But always try to connect it back to education. So it could be the world of the university, if that sounds like something you want to explore. What are your immediate reactions? And now I'll ask you to transition to what is it that you want? What does this mask want from these educational spaces, communities? What does it desire? Now explore what is something that you're afraid of or upset by. Is there something that your mask fears in this space? And what is the fear or the uncomfort? Um, does it have anything to say about that? And after exploring the fear, is there anything in this space that you trust in or that you feel you can rely on? So if you want support, care, relationship, where do you go in this space? What do you trust? And to close, just allow your mask to free write anything else that they want to say, express, um, anything that's coming up for the mask that maybe these questions haven't gotten to. So give yourself another minute. And start wrapping up your thoughts. And now I'm going to pass it over to Dan.
Okay, so what I'm going to invite you to do for just a moment, but make sure you do this with intentionality, is to allow yourself to take your mask off. You don't just take it off. It's an intentional choice to take your mask off and enter this space as ourselves. And you'll be doing that a few times throughout this next activity. So every time you go back to your mask, make sure you don't simply put your mask on quickly, but that it's an intentional choice of either asking permission to the mask or having some sort of dialogue with the mask in which you are embracing that transformation. So Michelle, while I'm giving the instructions, if you could create 2 groups of 4 amongst you all, that would be great. I'm going to put these also in the chat. So what you all are going to do is basically create a little theater piece using your masks and masked characters. You're going to start off by each person presenting yourself and ranting a little bit as your masked character. So play in that rant with the other folks in your group, as comfortable as you feel you are able to play with that. Then, after everybody's done that, you're going to try to identify a shared conflict or select some conflict that resonates with everybody. And then you're going to create a very short theatrical presentation, however you want to do this. The only requirement is that you're using your masks, your masked characters, to present the conflict to the group. Don't try to solve the conflict, simply present the conflict. And this is a way of inspiring a dialogue. So you're basically identifying some sort of crack. We've talked about this storytelling for social change workshop as planting seeds of change. So what you're doing is identifying a crack, and then when we all dialogue, we take it a little further, and together, that whole process represents the symbolic act of planting seeds of change. Okay, we're going to give you about 30 minutes to do this. Okay, so because it's going to take a little while. All right, we'll probably check in. We'll give you like when there's 10 minutes left and then 5 minutes left. Don't rush to having a final product. Remember, this is presenting the conflict how you want to present it, having fun, and embracing these masked characters. Any questions?
I have one question about the rooms. So I've assigned you to one room and Jill to the other. Do you guys want to be in the rooms or outside of the rooms?
We tend to find it a little more distracting when we're in the rooms because it kind of gets turned over to us. So not that you, but like questions come to us, and we would prefer not answering any questions or saying what's right, what's not right. So we would prefer being out of the rooms if that's okay.
Okay, I will remove you guys then. In fact, I'm just going to make you co-hosts, and that should take care of it. Let me just do that really quickly here. And, Daniel, I just made that. Yeah.
While Michelle's doing that, when you get to your room, this should be a little clearer. When you get to your rooms, arrive, and I know it gets a little tiring holding the mask or being masked character, and that's why I asked you to separate yourself. But find your time when you accept going into that group, that transition, enter as your masked character. And then try not to speak as yourself unless you remove the mask and then speak as yourself. Okay, so it'll be a little, it's a little tricky, but it's also fun, hopefully.
Okay, we're ready.
All right, so Michelle's gonna send us to groups, and right as you hit accept, make sure in that accepting, you're also transitioning, okay?
Here we go.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Yeah, we're going to ask now. The idea is to have each group present. And after each presentation, we're going to have a short dialogue about what we saw, what came up, what was your process. And then we'll go to the next group, do the same, and then close up with like a final reflection. So is there any group that would like to start us off? Okay, then I guess we can go with group number one.
Pick me. Okay. Okay. We'll do it.
A quick caveat that often what's best in these presentations, although it's up to every viewer, is everyone else can turn off their camera. And if you hide non-video participants using the little arrow next to stop video and going to video settings, then you can do that as well, as we've discussed in previous.
Yeah, so let's see. Where's hide non-video participants? There it is. Okay. Okay. Where's Kurt? Oh, there he is. Donna, where are you? There you are.
Sorry, I need my glasses.
Okay.
Whoa. Okay, thank you. It would be lovely. Yeah, maybe why don't we start off with people that were observing? Like, what did you see?
marble filters. I don't even know how to do that. Very high tech.
We just figured that out while we were hanging out.
I mean, it looked fun.
I saw masks within masks. The so many different layers, but also not just the layers, the different personalities that can come out, and how we don't just mask our faces, but we mask our spaces. So that stretching of the idea of the mask, and thinking of the interplay in education of like the agents, the human or living agents, but then also the living agency of that space was so powerful for me.
Changing of perspective and how we were viewing, some people were upside down and turning, and a lot of different things going on at the same time. So it was the idea of maybe different perceptions of the same event or thing happening at the same time, but some of it topsy-turvy and some of it straight on.
Yeah, it made me laugh. It seemed very whimsical, and I really didn't know where to look next. So that was fun. My eyes just darted from each little box.
Was there like a soundtrack? It felt like the music was, I don't know who had the sound on. It felt like there was music or some kind of sound element.
Might have just been the speakers at my shop here.
Yeah, well, that sounded good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like I saw in some ways like a world making, like it really felt like, also with the idea of space and how we started off of like the sacred and the rehearsal and the playground, and like I felt like I was in a space that I also felt like disoriented, like it was the use of another type of language or another way of being that I was like, what is going on? But it really sparked my curiosity and made me like, I was so excited to see what you would do next. So yeah, thank you. Now let's hear like what was your process? How did you all decide to create this, and yeah, what was like the thoughts behind it?
I think we felt as confused as you were, Chelsea. So it was very much like just went with it, I mean, there were some elements though that we discussed, so I'll kind of pass it over to Tamron and Donna and Kurt to maybe bring some of those out.
The idea of ambiguity came up, and then we like started playing with these filters, and I couldn't figure it out, so all I had was to shift my space and orientation, which was very disorienting. Even when I was doing it, I was trying to like move up and down, and I felt really odd bodily, like this weird, because I was looking at myself. So it gave me this it actually like amplified how I felt. I felt very different in the mask, but also doing that in different like orientations. So
yeah, ambiguity, difference, perception of invisibility came up for all of us in some form when we had our masks on. And Michelle started us off by saying, so how did you answer some of those questions? Which was a great way to focus and share.
Like, again, we were talking about ambiguity and sort of fluidity of identity, and lots of us felt that. And Michelle, she has a whole different personality that comes out when she's masked, which is really great. But it's its own coherent personality, whereas a lot of us started feeling our identity slip away a little bit, in a good way though, like a very good way. And so I liked what Daniel said because we were all going through this, but then 4 of us were doing it at once as well. So that it kind of adds this other level that takes us even further out of our own personalities, because it's sort of we're all doing the same thing, but it was all different. So tons of details to process at once, but it was also one being creating it all, kind of.
Yeah, I think that one of the fascinating things that Kurt brought up, like I think we all got stuck on the "Who are you?" question to begin with, you know. And Kurt mentioned that he transitioned from first person to we, to an inclusive we. So he became his mask, like he, you know, like they melded somehow, and that was absolutely fascinating. For me, who I am with the mask, and I don't want to take it off. I love it. It's different than the person that I am. A lot more kind of, I don't know, like insecure and self-conscious and stuff like that without the mask, you know. I'm gonna keep my mask on. But as we sort of navigated those things, that idea that Cameron was bringing up and Donna, you know, about ambiguity and transition, like not just being fixed on one identity, but like multiple things. So I loved playing like the mask under the mask, you know, through the effects. I loved when Donna took her mask off and she was the jaguar, and then I could become the jaguar like her, you know. Another thing is perception, like how other people see us and how we see ourselves. So bringing out the character of the mask by way of movement or sound, because I thought Donna's mask was a hippopotamus, like a really like lovable hippopotamus, and she's like, no, I'm a jaguar, you know. So having to bring out the personality beyond just the perception of what we see. And I think that in terms of the educational conflict, you know, that idea of like being demanded to fit in a certain identity versus being able to float about and change and stuff like that, and how that comments possibly on like hierarchies, you know, within the institution. So that was kind of our process. We didn't all include sound, so that it's interesting how sound from our last workshop, sound kind of gets left a little bit, and we have to remind ourselves, oh yeah, how does our, you know, our mask sound, you know. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. And it's really amazing thinking about how that idea of Kirk being a we, and we definitely saw we-ness in that. And I mean, that is the essence really of storytelling for social change or theater of the oppressed. It's finding that first person plural. And while it doesn't always make sense, often, you know, like rational sense, you might be confused, that connecting with the first person plural is really that first engagement with what we were calling these cracks. So really appreciate that. And let's move on to the next group. So those who are not can turn off you can stop your video.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, everyone.
I don't think I'm meant to be here. I'm not sure. Anyone? Who are you?
I'm Sunny. Who are you?
Hello, Sunny. I don't have a name.
I'm Orange. I'm here. I know why I'm here. I'm here to have fun. Are you having fun? All of you?
Wait, let me look at my notes. Yes. Although that I don't know, I'm only here to read the script, and I can't really speak for myself. But the people that made me wanted me to have fun. But where we are is very serious. A lot of people die here. Terrible things happen here in this room. So they wanted me to have fun. So as a way to tell people about the not so fun things in this room.
People in this room. Oh my God. People in this room. They're so taken with where they are, what positions they hold, the knowledge they hold. They're so occupied that they can't see others, and they don't allow others to have fun and feel.
Maybe if we make adjustments to our rooms, we can let some more light in. We can play.
I don't think we're supposed to show our emotion in this room. I think we're supposed to just take it all in and then become what they are.
Where's the fun in that? Where are ourselves in that?
Are we all in the same room?
Most of us are.
Let me check.
Are we?
I think so, but maybe we're just thinking we are.
That's true. The people that made me wanted me to get others to change the rooms that we're in. And they wanted, so Orange, you said something about fun. They wanted to do it through fun. So these things are really serious. You know, they harm people in the room. But I worry, when I look at my notes, I realize that what I am afraid of is being taken for a joke by the people that want to be serious, but they're not serious about the serious things in the room.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But we have to remember, pain and humor sometimes go hand in hand in order to fully portray humanity. We are not just our sufferings.
That's true. I think the people that made me agree with you there.
I like the people who made you.
Me too. I really believe in what they're saying. The trouble is, I don't know if it's, when I take off this mask, I feel like I was someone that wallpapered the room, put that couch in the corner there. Sure, I put in some bouncy balls to make people feel like they were having fun, but you know, the people who made me want to, they want to change the room. So it's difficult. It's complicated. I don't know. Again, I don't really know why I'm here.
Sunny, how do you feel?
I feel better now. I had to make some adjustments to my room. I feel a lot better. Blank
What
paper.
adjustments?
I had to move some things. I had to adjust these massive curtains that were prohibiting me from spreading my light outside into the rest of the world. I enjoy being here with you all, but I'd like to let my rays explore. Blank paper, how are you doing?
Oh, yay, yay. Yes, blank paper.
Thank you, blank paper.
This be the end?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. Wow, that was fantastic. People heard me laughing out loud here, and they're like, "What's going on?" Laughed out loud pretty hard a couple times. So let's just turn it over to those who are observing and hear some comments.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Just giving everyone a pause there. That was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I don't even know where to start, but how, like just maybe flashes of things that I saw. Richard, I love the partial face, you know. So this idea of sort of being with your mask, but not quite with your mask, like
I
there's
can't
a
see
gap there.
otherwise, Michelle. I can't see.
It may be like a technical thing, yeah,
I
but
could cut. I could cut.
it had a good effect, though. It kind of, maybe unintentionally, had a really amazing effect. I love how everybody was kind of approaching everyone else, like unknown, and exploring, asking questions, getting to know. Um, uh, and then the reiterations, you know, like this is serious, you know, like this is really serious. People die here, you know, they're not taking the serious stuff seriously. Like those reiterations really sank in as you were saying it over and over again, along with the whether people were having fun. And I just totally cracked up out loud when Alice, you asked, is everybody having fun? And Richard said, wait, let me check my notes. So, that was fantastic. So I don't know, just so many really rich things to explore, but I'll just leave it there with just my general impressions and reactions.
I really love the use of the like reference to the room, and it, you know, I kept thinking about the spaces you were in, and since I just saw the 4 screens and I was thinking about like this is a Zoom room, like this is the room, but then you're all in your separate rooms, and that reference to the room as almost like this third character that you existed in and with, I thought was really, like, I just kept focusing on that for some reason, like the space, the room, what brought you together, what kept you apart, those kind of things.
I was particularly taken with the mask and the breadth of the kinds of masks, you know, and a mask, Orange's mask that was not supposed to be over her eyes, right? And you know, the thinking about how ubiquitous mask wearing is for us, and yet it conceals a lot. That is very interesting. And also, Richard, the part way, I mean, I can appreciate that because when I didn't have my glasses on behind my mask, I couldn't really see what other people were doing, and that was difficult. But that I think in part what was so cool about that is that it was a face in front of your face, whereas, you know, the rest of us were clearly masks in front of our face, and so that felt very different.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say that I got a really kind of overarching and overwhelming sense of kindness and goodwill from the whole thing. Like it just felt warm and inclusive and together, even in sad moments. So it's a very nice community. And also, as usually happens with assignments like these, I personally have no idea what to do. So I was just really impressed at the incredibly different approaches that both groups had, because I would never have been able to, I don't know, when it comes to like a sort of scripted or even improvised role thing, I don't know when the last time I did something like that was, so I really admire that.
Well, let's hear from the folks, from No Name Orange, Blank Paper, and Sunny.
Orange, you got to go first.
I definitely I really enjoyed my character. Definitely a little bit rude. I feel like a little bit fearless behind it. I'm not like that, and also the criticism I was making as an orange. Yeah, I was glad that the mask gave me that power.
So for Sunny, I was trying to fill up the space with as much light as I could. So that was part of my challenge, was to get outside of the Zoom room and this literal room. So I really took it literally.
And blank paper was kind of just hiding emotion and not being very outgoing, was there to be an observer and was really playing off of the other masked characters, that especially Orange was the leader and was bringing out everybody's became more interactive, and we had more of a sense of community thanks to Orange. I really think that was part of that. And then No Name really brought us into realizing that there was this shared room, this idea of the space that we were all reacting to. It was very improvised and of the moment.
And none of us were expecting what you did at the end there, blank face. Like that just blew us all. That was the moment that we improvised throughout our training. I guess we were kind of training for the moment. We didn't orchestrate anything, but we just wanted to kind of get our characters going. And also it's really nice to hear you talking about how we created the room as a character, because that became kind of fleshed out in our rehearsals, and the room, and that weirdness of talking, because the room, we were bringing it into a space of like the institution, the setting, and those rooms became our department, because 3 of us were in the same department. We're all in the same building, and so we're all in, if we were in Sullivan, we'd all be there in the same building in the institution. And my script was written by some artists. My mask was made by some artists, by New Red Order, an Indigenous collective who I've engaged with in relation to the mask, and that's what this is an image of their mask, and they asked for accomplices to wear these masks to support Indigenous liberation movements, and so I was just following their script, and their script is something I believed in and believe in, and so it was about how. But then there's that weird problem of knowing that I am someone that has benefited from the room of settler colonialism in the sense of my privilege, and that means that I designed the wallpaper, all those kinds of issues. And so thanks to Orange and the sun coming in, and then the radical act at the end by Blankface, we were able to change everything.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was so moved also by, whether intentional or not, but by so much in-betweenness, especially in the silence between one person speaking and the next person speaking. It provided this rich space, but filling that up also with curiosity. There was such curiosity among everyone. So that intention, that looking for something, that looking to do something, really provided a contrast and like an in-betweenness with this idea of those people who made me. So it's the difference between this objectivity and subjectivity, you know, that was going on, and yeah, you know, all that silence and all those spaces play into that final moment of drawing the smiley face, right? Which once again, because it was done in the way it did, it helps us engage with all that was being said, whether it's different characters, different spaces, that somehow brings it all together. So we're really, really grateful for both performances. And right now, we really don't have much time, but we wanted just to open it up for some final reflections about the process. And instead of focusing kind of what like we're taking away from this, we'd love to hear just what questions you're asking yourselves, or asking the world, however you want to frame it, as we leave this space today. That's always a really tough question to ask for questions.
Yeah. So I don't know, you know, I had a very powerful moment though, um, when the group of Orange and Sunny and Blank Face and No Name were presenting, and I felt this moment of real empathy for our students, like almost kind of like a heart wrenching empathy of when Richard, you said, I don't know why I'm here. Like there was like a lot of confusion. So at the same time that there was sort of like this exploration to try to connect, there's a lot of confusion, asking like, are you in the same room? Like I feel that confusion among our students right now, you know, not just thinking about navigating a really big campus, but now like kind of feeling lost in this virtual space. And the looks, all of those looks, I recognize them from the students in my class, you know, of like being excited but not knowing how to behave, or having technical malfunctions, not knowing if they're supposed to be virtual or in person today, you know, like this kind of thing. So I don't know, maybe in terms of a question, that the question of where we are has become really problematic right now, right? In the context that we're in. And the questions, I don't know what exactly the question would be, but they orient more toward others, right? Like, are you having fun? Do you understand why you're here? Hey, like, I don't know, just something related to other people as anchors, as opposed to a place as the anchor for knowing or being. I don't know exactly what the question emerges there.
I mean, it's funny that you said that, Michelle, because when I was writing the notes kind of ahead of it, and even not thinking about the particular character that I was playing, I was thinking about like imposter syndrome and these kinds of questions of like, so not knowing why I'm here was kind of it started in my mind as a kind of way to thematize that question of imposter, but the fact that then it becomes a space where we identify with a student perspective, I find pretty interesting. And so maybe there's actually there is a productive sense of imposter syndrome that might get us to connect with students if we actually embody it as professors, rather than like just have it enforced upon us, but actually explore what it means not to feel kind of that slight discomfort of not knowing, or not knowing if you're in the right place. And you know, for my narrative, my personal narrative, moving from one department to the other, you know, I teach in a program where I did not get my PhD, and those elements, you know, I don't write in the same way as my colleagues. I'm in a space of, on a bad day, it's definitely a feeling of like, what am I doing? Do I even belong here? And on a good day, it's like, I'm exactly where I need to be. And so it's that's a real difficult, but I like how you got from that perspective to the student perspective. So yeah, how can we bring the position of the imposter into a place of not fun, but a sense of like confident play rather than being imposed on us. Yeah, how do we own our imposter status? Like, and how do we kind of walk through the world knowing that that could actually help other people by admitting and engaging with how we feel like imposters?
Mhm. That seems like such a great definition of interdisciplinary collaboration.
Mm. Yeah.
I also want to quickly comment because this is my first time actually doing sort of like a drama inquiry, sort of like play inquiry process. But before, when I read about things like this, I always have a sort of reserve or sort of concern of thinking of other people's narrative or other people's experience being something as a characterized or being something that you can put on and take off and then you can fully experience it. But having done this, I feel like I fully appreciate, not fully, but I'm starting to appreciate or understand the process of exploring the experience. I may not fully understand it yet, but I can start to, it's a process of acting. You have to constantly go back to your notes and think like, okay, what is this person's value? What is this character's experience? What do they care about? Because you're not them, then you have to like constantly work through that. So and then also the interacting with other people or characters in the group. I feel like there's definitely something very magical. So yeah, thank you. And there definitely is that element of care. I feel like everybody here, when we put on these masks, I feel like the activity before it, like we didn't take, even though it was playful, the ceremony that we're putting it on, we knew that we were taking care of the personas we were putting on. So yeah, I really like that.
I've been thinking a lot about too this kind of creating a culture of care, and this workshop has definitely helped me to do that. But I just wanted to share something too with the group and Daniel and Shell that those of you that don't know, I've been away from the university for a year. I'm at home in Toronto right now. And this has been a great connection to stay in touch with all of you and help explore, but also help, me to play in this way that I probably wouldn't, even as a student and during my day-to-day life. But recently I was able to become an emergency substitute teacher for a month, working with grade 1 and 2s. And I felt, it was different for me because I've never taught before in this formal setting. And I felt like, oh, well, so I'm the educator now, I set the tone. And I was working in hybrid mode, which I know a lot of you are also working in. And I was able to I felt like I was able to bring in some techniques that we've learned, a lot of improv that I shared with them to make the space warm and comfortable, and also to be able to connect students in person and on the hybrid mode. Like I acted as to do the, I don't know, morning routine, what day is it, what month is it, et cetera, what's the weather like outside. I acted as a reporter. These are things that I never saw myself doing. And I also felt, well, maybe it's the children bringing this out in me as well. But I think that, I felt myself wanting to share the techniques that I've learned even on Zoom here with those in class. And we did definitely play around with the chat a bit. So I wanted to share that. And it helped. I think it made them comfortable with me as being their third teacher for this semester or for this year, and just get to know me. So I just
Yeah, I don't know if I have like a particular question that I'd like to share, but I think I still feel like I'm processing what I saw. And I feel, because I felt like, yeah, in the second one, I also felt a tremendous amount of like sadness, you know, of the terrible things and the fun, and also this like presence of this like room, and like who put you there, and like should we take you out of it, you know, like all of these questions that I feel like in, and then also like mixed with the confusion or the like the of the first presentation of like I'm not exactly sure where I should look. But I think there's something so powerful that when we do this type of work, it also I do feel that like sort of ceremonial playground where, you know, maybe like things have different meanings for different people, and throughout, like the meanings and what we see and what we learn will also evolve. So it's also really beautiful how alive this work can be, and how it then can like transform into different things, no, in our struggles for liberation. But I love the part of how I felt that also through, it was like you all were creating knowledge through that relationship with one another. So also just seeing that in action of like just creating the knowledge of this room, right? It felt super powerful. So I just want to say thank you all for this time that we've shared. It's been really powerful, all of the different creations and work. I feel really inspired and moved, and like I'll take things with me that will continue to like support my own growth. So thank you all.
And I came here, I was a little bit late because I was just finishing up a seminar on being an ally in anti-racist practice. And I found this seminar, I don't know, it was probably on, the on-campus newsletter or something. I had no idea what to expect. And, that I had that mask was, and that I would need it. I have never needed it before. But the connection for me, I mean, one of the questions that we were kind of left with at the end of that workshop before this one was, what actions can you take? And doing this, something that was kind of uncomfortable for me and very different than what I usually do, helped me to think about, okay, some of the things that I need to take action on are also going to be out of my comfort zone and something I've never done before. And I had no idea that the two of these workshops back to back would be perfect. Thank you for letting me join.
We don't want to silence anybody, but we also know that we're at 12:30. So, or 2:30, not 12:30. We started at 12:30. It just felt like so fast. That's why I'm glad we were able to do the extra half hour this time. Will you all be processing next week? Is that on the schedule? Okay.
Yeah, so that we have an open reflection time next week at 1 o'clock. So next Friday.
Okay. If it would be useful for you all, I think I just looked at my calendar. It looks like I am available. So to continue processing and also maybe find a way to talk about, what next? Because the dangers of these workshops is they end and then you feel, well, what goes on now? So we can talk a little bit about that. So once again, Chela and I want to express our gratitude for being invited into this space and really feeling that care, as Alice mentioned, throughout the entire process, last semester and this semester. For those who've been at every session, I mean, just you've really helped us also find that, or almost every session, at least you've helped us find that arc. And a special thanks to Michelle and Richard for organizing this space, because I think it's really, really special to be able to have it. And it's not common. We work with a lot of institutions, and we can say that this is an uncommon practice that needs to be replicated elsewhere.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel and Chell. For us, it's been such an enriching experience. I cannot imagine this year without the workshops. They've had a profound impact on my personal life and on my teaching here in the virtual sort of context. And the question that you asked, Daniel, about what's next was exactly the question that I had, because I have this feeling like I don't want to let go of this. We need to continue doing this in the spirit and the method that you present, that we have to continue practicing and rehearsing, not just a one-off thing, but revisiting some of these exercises and ideas that have emerged. I have loved the vulnerability and the safe space that this has created for all of us to sort of explore. And as we interact in other spaces in the university, I think that we carry that, forward with us. So we are so grateful. It's been enlightening, and it's been not just that, but also very useful. Immediately applicable in our different settings. Always provocative. So we very much look forward to continuing to dialogue with you, and also to continue collaborating together.
Well, then everybody have a great weekend. Hopefully the weather's good in wherever you are to be able to get out and enjoy. And if we don't see you next week, we'll see you.
Okay, so everyone who is here, the same link for the reflection next week. Donna, I loved how some of us have done mini sessions, but your contribution as someone coming in with fresh eyes into this and jumping into the exercise was absolutely wonderful. So we invite you to join us again next Friday at 1 o'clock, same link. To continue discussing and processing what we've experienced by way of these workshops. Everyone, not just Donna, but just everyone welcome. So good. Thank you so much, Daniel, Chell. It's been amazing, and yeah, and we look forward to continuing the dialogue.
Everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Michelle, we actually have to run to a quick meeting.